Hello, world, and welcome to Creating Light with Kelsey. I don't have a plan today for this episode. I am really just showing up when I feel like it and recording and trusting that when I feel that pull to show up and talk, whatever comes through is exactly what the collective needs to hear instead of really planning all of the shit out. And if you've noticed, I have yet to release the Underworld Year 3 because I was releasing it once a month. So every fourth episode, then the Underworld was going to release, was the schedule that I had planned. But holy shit, when I released Year 2 and then breaking the silence about the sexual trauma I had experienced in my relationship, and then I had married the person, but I forgot about it. That was a lot. That was the first time me publicly speaking about it. And my whole being just needs to recoup from that. That series will still be happening for sure, because that's just part of my calling to share that. That really is my journey of coming home to myself, those 7 years of those intensive lessons of duality. That is most definitely meant to be shared with the world. I just need to breathe a little bit because life has also been fucking chaotic. The month of October and November, now I'm recording this and it's December 9th. And I know I'm not the only one. For me and my circle, it's been women in the feminine that have had just a fucking chaotic, unpredictable time in October and November. Just constant grief and the rug getting pulled out from underneath you and having to just figure shit out and adjust and adapt. The divine chaos for restructuring your life to really put you on alignment if you weren't. And I mean, shit, I thought I was in alignment and on the path, and I was, but just the time and the timeline that was happening and the trajectory of it all, of how it was unfolding, was meant to happen sooner than what I was on. Something happened within me, my frequency raised. It must have raised because time just collapsed, and this way future thing now became in this now moment. And that's what November and October had to just deconstruct everything of where it was already on its way to do so. But it just did it all at once because it was like, oh, we're done here. We're so done with all these lessons, and let's collapse time and be done with all of it all at once at the same time, so you don't have to worry about it anymore and drag it out longer than it needs to be. Congratulations, you have up leveled. I think what's wanting to come through right now is talking about grief in these moments. And it hasn't just been those last 2 months. It's been all of 2022 for me is grief. Oh, are we gonna do this? Is this the time? Holy shit. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, this is true. This is what's supposed to happen right now because now I want to cry. Is this going to be a theme of me just showing up on podcast episodes that will also be YouTube videos and crying and being raw and you just seeing the real life shit? Maybe. And I'm not wearing makeup right now, so you're really going to see the redness and crying and stuff if that keeps coming in waves. So what just came to me as I was like, yeah, the topic today is grief because my little opening rant brought this through. What kickstarted it for me at the beginning of 2022 was my best friend of 11 years, nearly 11 years, came over to my house and ended the friendship. She said that Spirit had told her that it was time to end the friendship and that she was in my way. There was a lot of other things, and she was saying as well that she didn't have the space to be my friend anymore. all of that, which that didn't make sense because she was like, I'm going through a hard time. And I'm like, I've been in your life for 11 years. I've seen all of the hard times. But what was true, though, at the end of it, because that's all the mixture of the human bullshit of trying to logic things, but like what the reality was and the truth was that we were just no longer meant to be friends. And she felt that and was listening to that pull, and I was completely blindsided. It was the most painful grief I have ever felt in my life, and it was strange to feel it. And, I continue to feel it in waves, but because she's still alive, like she's here, she lives 15 minutes away from me. So that's another thing. Grief is not just physical death, it's death of what was, the reality, the now moment, connections, opportunities, timelines. It's intertwined with a lot of things. It's not just physical death. And I was meant to feel that and understand and allow myself to flow through all of that pain, because I had yet to experience grief in that way before, and losing someone like that. And I learned a lot of the lesson of the art of detachment. And it was really just detaching myself from her and my energy and my life, the way that I lived. And I think that's where it can be, the pain can be dragged out, like the intensity of the pain, because grief can always still come in waves, like I just said, but that first hit of loss can linger longer than it needs to be when we choose to keep hanging on to attachment. So the more that I allowed myself to let go of her and accept that life just goes on without her, then a new reality started to be created right before my eyes. And then you see that beauty is still here and exists, and alignment is still possible, and even more possible when we don't attach. I think what's interesting is, this might sound a little off the wall, but I feel like other people have had these random thoughts or intrusive thoughts or daydreams or just, yeah. I think it was like the last couple years, maybe more so. So maybe I was like tapping into this future timeline of knowing our friendship was going to come to an end. But I would try to imagine my life without her, which had never happened before. And my ego and human self was like, that's not possible. I can't live without her. Like, I would not be able to go on. My soul would die. My human self would die. Like, I just would crumble and would not be able to survive without her. And that's probably exactly why she had to go. If I was that attached to a human and believing that life would not be able to go on without them, it's like the universe kind of came in and was like, because you think this way, she is now a major blind spot, and you will never reach your full potential if you are this enmeshed with this human. But when someone leaves, a part of you surfaces that's been dormant for a very long time that you didn't know was there. It's a rebirthing process of the self, which is kind of the point of grief. Something dies, then something new is reborn from it, or has the space. Something new has the space to come in or be born. And that was my mindset shift. Like, immediately when she ended the friendship, my brain was like, okay, obviously I'm in a fuck ton of pain. My body actually completely numbed itself, and I was very stoic And then I had realized, I was like, I am in way more pain than I'm allowing myself to recognize, because I am completely numb right now. And I don't remember the last time that's happened. So that means this must be very painful. We eventually got there and had to feel pain in increments and lovely things like that. But where was I going with that? Oh, even though I was noticing that, within like maybe that night or the next day, my mind was able to start to grasp the concept of, I have so much space now for something great to come in. I can't hold on to this because it's already gone. It's already changed. It's already shifted. The friendship is never the same. Even if we try to go back and be friends, the dynamic that we had because of this moment of her ending it, even if we did go back, that's gone. But we didn't go back, just so you know. But that is gone and no longer exists. And since she was a big part of my life, now I immediately understood, I have so much space now for something else to come in. And I don't know what it is, but it's going to be great, because she was great and had such a important role in who I was and contributed to a lot of my growth and healing. So now if that is no longer aligned, but yet it was very much aligned for 11 years, what else is now going to land in my container? Because grief is a sign of evolution. Nothing ever stays the same. Everything grows and dies and is reborn. And that's life. So since I had all of this space, the first thing that came up for me was my trauma, my 11-year-old self. I had no idea that my friend was taking up so much space within my life, that she was filling a role of a protector for me. And since she was gone, then I had to realize I now get to be my own protector. And my 5th grade self came crashing to the surface, the one that never was protected and needed attention and to be held and loved, and someone to step it up now and protect her, because her protector left. I had no fucking clue. I had no idea. I thought I made plenty of contact with my 5th grade self, thought we were tight and had a good relationship, and we did, but it wasn't great. It wasn't fully connected and healed. There was still voids and separation and me not doing my part. And with my friend not being there anymore, I didn't realize that she was filling that void and doing that part for me. So with her being gone, 2022 turned into a fucking massive lesson of learning how to be my own protector and standing up for myself and tending to my inner child in a way that I have never fucking done before. It was the deepest reparenting process I have ever done so far. And I felt like a mother to a small child, because my emotions were so raw and upfront. It was like I would go through the day, then get an emotional wave in my normal self-talk of like, oh, like we've got this going on right now. I'll give you attention later, or I'll give you space and we'll have time to feel this. Like, I was like, no, I demand all of you, all of your attention, all of your love and compassion. Like, I need you now. And I had to drop what I was doing and tend to my inner child. That's how severe and immediate and intense it was. I was like, damn, it was starting to feel like a full-time job of tending to my needs in that way. Like there was no other space other than to tend to my 11-year-old self, which makes so much sense. That I just said, I was like, there was no other space other than to tend to her. And then I had just said, since my friend left, I was like, I had so much space. which immediately got filled by myself and my own psyche and taking all these opportunities to fully choose me. And I think that's what grief really demands of us. It demands all of us, all of our attention. It's an opportunity to fully lean into love and tending to our emotional needs and get intimate with ourselves and hold ourselves. Because it's kind of, I feel like it's one of the most severe forms of emotional pain. So if you don't tend to it, where's it going to go? It's going to manifest into other things, and it's going to turn into disease, warp your perceptions on the world, and the shadow side of it can really facilitate disconnection if you let it. Grief is asking you to come back inside, to really dive into your heart and hold yourself. Feel, because there's way more to you and way more feelings and depth than you fucking realize until you're grieving. Then you get to know yourself in a way you never have before either. Then once you're so connected, you'll be able to have space to open yourself back up for connection outside of you. But if you allow grief to harden you and become victim to it because you lost something or someone, because it's hard and it sucks, but it happened, and all you're left with is the reality that they're no longer here, and you're left with your feelings. And when we sit in that, instead of blame and projection and longing and attaching to what was, it becomes the shadow side of grief instead of allowing it to crack your heart open and help you lean more into love. Because that's the opposite, right, too, of like the saying of, if you're feeling this much grief, that means you had a love that was so big. But for me, allowing myself to feel all of it and lean into that and that pain of losing her created the space and allowed me to feel all of the pain of the shit that my 11-year-old self went through. When, damn, like I thought I went there. Like, bitch, you thought you went there. Think again. Everything is cyclical. You learn one lesson, you get a little deeper and deeper and deeper because you gain the skills, you build the resilience, you know more tools, and it just keeps going. So then I created the space to feel more into my pain and learn more about myself and rewire stories, let go of other things within and of trauma in the past, which after that then created the space for me to fully step into my power. That would not have, let me tell you, that would not have fucking happened if my friend did not leave my life. I know that for a fact now. I never would have fully stepped into my power if I had continued to stay in that level of enmeshment and attachment and closeness and choosing something that was no longer aligned. And one of the things that she had told me in regards to being in my way, she's like, you're here to do great things and you're choosing certain paths. And she's like, I'm not there with you anymore and I'm not choosing that. And she's like, because of that, I no longer get the privilege of being so close to you. Now I'm meant to love you from a distance and just cheer you on while you do accomplish these great things. I think that was the saddest part Because then I had looked at her and I was like, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know you were in my way. And that's just sad. And we just held each other and cried. This was my first conscious uncoupling. I didn't know too much about it, but from my understanding, it's just when you're in a relationship with someone of any dynamic and it's not some huge blowout or people are treating you like shit and you must leave now, like, because that's usually how things end. It's just that the two humans come together and recognize, like, this is no longer it and it's time for us to part ways. But thank you for being in my life and playing an important role. But now our paths are diverging, showing each other love and sending love and talking about it to get clear on what's going to happen now and how to move forward, and setting new guidelines of a dynamic or like none at all. And that's what this was. And that had never happened to me before. Usually with friendships and relationships all around, like work as well, that stuff, like shit would just end abruptly, dramatically, cut off completely, and like never speak to them again, but never have like just a straight up confrontational conversation of the ending. Like shit would just hit the fan and shit would just hit the fan and it'd be over. The end. And it would leave me just shocked and stunned a lot and scrambling for regrounding. But this was not that. It was a conscious uncoupling. She came over, was honest with me, ended things. We talked about our feelings and why and where we're at. And I asked what the new boundaries are. Yeah, we held each other and cried. And then she left. And I haven't seen her since. We've texted a few times just over certain things because of her kid's birthday. And then with me being on this platform, and I had actually wrote a poem about her, and I was going to read it out loud. I was going to use her name in it too, because it was like a play on words. And so I texted her about that, asking for her consent. And she was like, absolutely, you can do anything and talk about us in any form. Like, you have my full permission and consent, like whatever you want to do. And I was just like, okay. And then now here I am talking about it on a podcast episode. This was not planned at all. I didn't think I was going to do this. Actually, I thought I was just going to write a poem about her and leave it at that, which I haven't even read that poem publicly yet. Just sitting in my Word document, that is. But yeah, so that was the only reason why that we've contacted each other, me like contacting her. So it was a clean cut. And I told her I was going to unfollow her on social media because it would be too painful for me to see her live her life and me no longer be in it. She still follows me though, so I see you. She lurks in the background being a creep because she's always been a creep. I'm not quite sure how to end this. Is this kind of what happens now? You know, we pop on and talk and we don't know what we're going to talk about. Then we just go on a rant and then we don't know how to end it. We'll get better at this, I'm sure. I'm used to having more control, which is difficult. It's actually, listen, it is difficult to just show up and talk and not know what the heck you're really going to talk about and not have a script. It hits my perfectionism wound and control needs. But those are illusions. Perfection is not real. Control is not real either. So, yay. I think I'll end on the note of this year I mean, that was just one incident. Like, there has been so many other incidences of grief this past year of 2022. It was just my friend was at the very beginning. It was like, you ready for this? You ready? You ready for a big LOL? Universe got jokes moment? It was on February 22nd, 2022. So 2/22/22 was the day that she ended things. From there, after that, there's been a lot of other moments of grief, but like this one was the kickoff and a continuous lesson of detachment and learning the art of detachment and feeling this level of pain and grief involving another human, and it not being about like just myself or my life, because I've grieved hard with life and trauma, because when you go through significant trauma, you kind of grieve the life that you never had, and you grieve the childhood that you did have as well, in your body if you had bodily trauma. There's a lot of grief with that, and then with like physically losing a human when someone dies. So that was different, and I've kind of been there, but this was like just something I've never experienced before. It was a whole new depth to grief that I didn't even know existed. I got off track. I don't even know where the fuck I was going to go with that. I'm trying to end the episode. This is what I'm trying to do. But okay. Yeah. So letting grief be and exist and honoring it, not trying to push it away because it's already here. It's already within you. Honoring the letting go process, that what was no longer is, but that doesn't mean your life stops when that stops. There's just a whole new path for you, waiting for you to walk on, but it won't really be presented in front of you until you fully let yourself feel the grief of the old life, of the old person, of the old opportunities. And that's the lesson. Feel your feelings. Well, thank you for being on this journey of this life story and where I'm at right now, and listening to what came through. I'm excited to see how this continues to unfold as I show up on the podcast in this way now. So thank you. And remember, when we see the light in ourselves, we create light in others.